from the storms in California.
Oh, wow. What part of California you're in?
Sacramento.
It's bad out there?
It's been up and down. I mean, I think, you know, for certain people under certain trees or houses or living situations, yeah, and some of the roads are still, you know, they're clearing debris, and yeah, different regions of the state. It's just a lot of rain over and over again. So yeah, it's an interesting state to live in, like, you know, living through climate change, I think, with drought and flooding and all of that. So but I'd love to hear more about your projects and kind of your work and organizations in the context of this group really focused on food justice and food equity, addressing food insecurity as well as food sovereignty, and what you're doing in the community for us to hear about.
Okay. Well, this is my first time doing a dual PowerPoint and and Zoom, so bear with me. Okay. All right. Yes, it was a challenge putting this together on a short notice, but that's pretty much what we do, so it wasn't that bad. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, do you want to share your screen or anything, or do you want to?
Okay, yeah, I think there you go.
Perfect.
You got it?
We got it.
Okay. All right. Excellent. First time. Okay. Now, to see my screen, I guess I have to minimize you here. Too, right. There we go. Okay. So where should we start? All right, and take some things off the screen. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining us too. And we're just here to talk a little bit about what we're doing out here on the East Coast. All right. We're actually working with the African Botanical Garden Project, where we grow crops from Africa and the diaspora, to reintroducing traditional and ancestral crops from Africa into the diaspora now, to recapture, like the title said, African mind and palate around this food space too. Okay. This is a little information about what we're doing here now too, and the why behind the work too. How should I do this? Would I read these off, or you can see them where you're at?
You can read it. It's your choice, kind of. I think if you want to kind of highlight some of it, I think it's good.
Okay. Well, I'll read through it and like that too, and I can explain each slide as I go through. All right. All right. This is my inaugural PowerPoint Zoom, so here we go. Again, thank you all for being here this morning too. And what we have here is the team at Nebedaye Farms believe that a return to wellness African Americans to reintroduce crops from their ancestral heritage. And something's blocking my screen. How do I take this off? Hold one second. Oh, there we go. Okay. Low base information too. We deal with a lot of diet related illness, and one thing we work on here is reconnecting to foods of our past, to when we didn't have a lot of these problems, to diet related illnesses. So we believe that eating and connecting with food of our ancestors add to the healing, because we had a lot of ancestral trauma around farming, but reconnection of foods to we culturally connected to, and like to we feel like that would bring more of us back into compliance and more excited about actually getting reintroduced and getting back in touch with the land where everything starts from too. Right. We do this through a study of, we've been doing research for the last like 5 years to experiment with different plants to see that would grow in this area too. In certain areas of West Africa, the climate is pretty similar to where I'm from, down in Charleston. So a lot of the same crops definitely will grow in this area. Okay. One who carries a pot of honey doesn't envy the sugarcane farmer. Anybody can tell me what they read into that?
I mean, I think there's a lot, right? There's independence and sovereignty and being and connected with the land and the bees and the trees. If you're a honey farmer, and a sugarcane farmer is connected to a commodity trade and doesn't have much control and over what they're growing.
Okay, well, we're in the context we're using in here too, and that's pretty accurate. Also, too, it's like one who carries a honey pot doesn't envy the sugarcane farmer. That's taking advantage of and knowing if we know what we have, right, there'll be less need because we have most of everything that we do need, right? So we don't even have to envy what's going on in other places. Too, we have enough at home within our culture to take care of most of our needs, right? So we don't have to envy what the next group has or the next demographic have or whatever. And like, no, we try to definitely pay attention to what we do have, because we do have a lot and we bring a lot to the table. Not just underserved, marginalized. We're not underserved, we're not marginalized. And like, that's a choice that we make if we accept that language as a description for us here. Okay. Through our African Botanical Garden, we highlight nutritious gems hidden in plain sight. We hope to stimulate local, perhaps worldwide action to boost our productivity and production to the advantage of millions now existing at the mercy of fate. We aim to raise nutritional level, diversify agriculture, to maintain proper relationships with our ancestors, and create economic opportunities where all three are needed most. Okay. What does the Kuba cloth have to do with gardening? Okay. This is an example of Kuba cloth from the Congo. And our new African Botanical Garden, we're utilizing patterns from African fabric into our garden design. So not only the plants tell stories, just the layout of the gardens tell stories based on traditional and ancient African print fabrics, because these fabrics tell stories and have meanings in the design and the shapes. And this is what we use to design our gardens here at the farm and for other members of the community who may be interested in us designing garden beds for them as part of the work that we do. Okay. This is a concept fabric that we use for the design, and these are some of the finished drawings based on the concept. We hope to have this installed during the spring and summer this year, and have the late summer, fall launch too, but and then expand on it for next year. This year is the building stage. We're still raising funds towards completing this project, but things are coming together very, very well. And we're getting a lot of input and support from the community and even from outside of our community here. There's an interest in this type of garden. I'm not sure if there's one built here anywhere in the country specifically focusing on crops from Africa and showcasing Africa's botanical legacy here too. But this is what our contribution here. Okay. We aspire to encourage such actions that lead to a renewed spiritual and cultural connection to our domestic food supply. With commitment the rewards to our community, stimulated into action could be vast. For Africans throughout the diaspora, these species represent some of the best foods for the future. Although generally ignored by researchers, many of these crops were quite familiar with farms, garden markets of our ancestors, and constitutes an obvious way by which the African diasporas can reach back to the past and help fashion itself a sovereign future. These are some of the crops that we've actually grown here, two of African origin. We do a lot with the bambara, the long beans that most of us see in Asian markets, too actually is a cowpea, and originally from Africa also too. And this is the garden egg is another one that grows very well, puts out a lot, produces a lot of food that can be stored, saved, flavored many different ways, and using different dishes throughout Africa and other regions from Africa to the Middle East. This is one of the eggplants that they do use, and they serve a lot of eggplant in their diets too. But this is one that's native to Africa, and an example of what I feel in growing this type of crops. When I'm eating something like a garden egg that I didn't grow up eating, but we reach back over time and just feels the sense of empowerment to be breaking bread with our ancestors from thousands of years ago. So that's more healing to me also too. And I feel like, more people having that connection, like that too, they would gravitate more to getting more and more involved and have a sense of pride in these particular crops and what it takes to produce them and just share them, even if it's ornamental, just for historical context or cultural connection, paying homage to our ancestors. It's just another way to have that direct connection to not only just the history of the plant in the plant journey, foodways leading here. You actually eating foods from thousands of years ago, before the transatlantic slave trade and before soul food. This is spirit food. This is the food that evolved with us and from us. We're gonna move some of the grains that we'll be growing right this year too, and at the farm this year will be grains of African origin. By learning to work with them again, monetize them, and actually create value-added products for them, do more research into them, and see how we can convert them and bring them into into daily use because they're very high nutritious, valuable. Hold on. Okay. Here we go. All of these grains we've grown before, and just being able to grow them and share them when we have our annual Taste of Africa dinner every year here at the farm in October, where we will use a lot of these particular crops. We are growing rice now, we grow sorghum, we grow pearl millet, also doing some, and this year we'll be expanding into the Egyptian wheat. So that's another gluten-free wheat that can actually provide economic opportunity for members of the community through their gardens. We believe in using our community gardens not just to learn about eating fresh, healthy foods, but also as economic engines. There's a lot of opportunity to use that space for economic empowerment in the community beyond the farmers market. And some of the things we talked about too.
Can I interrupt you for a second? On the last slide, the last grain on the right, which one is that? Is that amaranth or?
Well, on the right?
Yeah.
That's sorghum.
That's sorghum. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I just saw my type. I didn't write sorghum on it.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I was reading and I was trying to find which one it was, but.
Yeah, that one's sorghum. This is rice. And this year we actually growing original African rice, right? The Glamarina, too. Right. So that's the one we're actually growing and building markets around the specialty crops like that too, right? I'm actually working with an organization called Jubilee Justice out of Louisiana, too, where we have a rice growers co-op among Black farmers, too, where we share information, reintroduce rice growing into the community, because originally where I'm from, Charleston, rice and indigo was like the 1 and 2 cash crops that made Charleston one of the richest colonies. We didn't benefit that time, but this time we plan to. And by growing Glamarina rice also, that's a niche market for us. Yeah, when it's a specialty market. And these are how grains and seeds and plants of our ancestors here to serve us now to to aid in the fight for justice around food.
Thank you. Can I, does anyone else have any questions or comments about any of the content Bernard's presented so far?
No, I just realized I need to do a little better eating. To Cheryl.
You need more spiritual food in your diet?
Yeah, I need more spirit. I've been eating violent war food.
Okay.
OMG, OMG.
Well, at least
Well,
you know where
we're
to
trying.
get it.
It's called recapturing. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. All right. Too. I mean, it's as healing as the nutritional content, the spiritual content, and the food is major, right? And connecting to the food that way, you know, it's exciting to me. It just does so much for me to have that option, right? But it's so much we can do in this space by, you know, showcasing, elevating, promoting, doing additional research into to the African botanical legacy here, right? We brought a lot of foods here with us. Well, a lot of food. Let me rephrase that. A lot of the food came over here with us on those ships. All right, when we got here, and even growing up in the Charleston area, to a lot of plants that a lot of the elders always grew, you know, just because they don't share this part in school. That's why we have to get out and learn a lot on our own and do our own independent research. Is we never knew about them. They grew as ornamentals, but they actually had African and spiritual connections to our past. A lot of memory that's been lost, or just not passed down or shared through moving into through let's say back to the original slide, in the sugarcane farmer when we had the honey.
Yeah, I mean, even just the history of rice alone. I was just at the Society of Economic Botany conference in Jamaica, and they had multiple presentations on the different groups that escaped through enslavement and would put the rice grains in their hair. And I mean, all of this through the Caribbean, and really intense history, and new modern kind of research and arguments between the anthropologists who are going back and studying this. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal, kind of the geo connections between the regions too, about the climate, and even where you are in North Carolina. California also grows premier rice, and many people in California don't know that, where it's you know, a really specialty crop grown in the Central Valley. But because of water supply issues and changes, you know, that also becomes an issue. I also just wanted to mention that there's, I work with another woman who has an Ethiopian restaurant, and she's been actively looking for teff supply because Ethiopia has a ban on exporting it so the people in Ethiopia can get enough teff to eat. But there's also a large Ethiopian diaspora within the US and Europe that wants to eat teff as well. So where are these supplies coming from? And it is an incredible grain. It's gluten-free, high in protein, all of these things. So it's really, I mean, these plants are powerful from so many aspects, right? Not just a spiritual context or a nutritional context, but all of this. So it really is, it's really impressive. So thank you. And if anyone else doesn't, you can continue on. I just wanted to throw in a couple thoughts I'd had.
Well, I've experimented with teff before here, actually, and everybody in the Ethiopian community now asking me about, can I get them some teff right now, right? But those are the things to like by being out, think something like teff, to that same market opportunity that comes with that, too, and paying attention more to the economic aspects and becoming a member or part of that supply chain, especially since COVID and the world realized that supply chains can be interrupted. But teff here, growing teff here has been, I mean, we're able to get it to grow. The difference here is the heavy rains that we have in the season when it's time to harvest. Actually, in Ethiopia where it grows, they have more light, misty type rains. Here we have delusions. So by the time the teff is ready, the rain knocks all the grains off the plant.
Mm.
Yes, well, that's through research and trial and error, experimentation.
I do think they're doing some cultivation in the Midwest. It's
Yeah.
also one of the smallest grains. And I mean, it really hasn't gone outside of Ethiopia, even in the context of African cuisine. It's really only eaten in Ethiopia, which is also pretty interesting.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, so we actually, yeah, I've seen some farmers growing in experiment with growing the teff also, and that's another point too. Those grains are so small. You would take a lot to make a little bit here, right? I would grow some every year also too, just for the educational purposes and like that too. But I don't see that becoming based on where I'm at with inputs and supplies that we have to work with as viable option until we do further more research on maybe finding a cultivar strain that's a little more hardy for our environment here. Okay. Anybody else got any questions? Okay. All right. This pull up a couple of plants that show our botanical legacy here to in some of the everyday products. Like to did anybody remember palm olive soap? Okay. Well, the original palm olive soap, and I never knew the palm olive is actually palm oil and olive oil in the name. That shows the origin, but originally it was made with plant botanicals from Africa too. And this is how embracing learning more about and showcasing our botanical legacy in life until we can be more tapped into the supply chain or up further up the supply chain when it comes to utilizing plants that's originated with us. Too. These are large corporations using our plants and like to become multi-billion-dollar companies, multinational companies using the gems that we have at our disposal every day based on where you're a region of the country that you're in. But a lot of the palms actually can grow where I live too, that we actually started some farm seeds this year too as an experiment to see if we can grow them out into mature dwarf palm oil palms. So that's the experiment we're working with too. We do a lot of research and trial and error and experimentation with seeds that are not supposed to grow here. That's what led us into the moringa production experimentation. Now the grows are expanding in this area, but years ago when we started the moringa project, there was not much grown outside of Florida and South Texas, but now it's spreading out more through the country, and a lot more people getting into it because they realize it can grow here, maybe not as a perennial, but as a leafy annual, being it's a fast growing plant too. But the only way we found that out is through trial and error experimentation, took a chance on the seed that they say was tropical. But there's different ways in the research space and also in research around the plants too. And that's an avenue that I think more farmers have to have the creative freedom to experiment with. That type of research on individual citizen scientists like myself too. There's really not much help out there to take a year to experiment with a plant, to take 2 years to experiment with the plants to see what you can produce or make out of it and come up. But that's the space that I know we need, I feel, even with food justice, moving into a space where being more, having more input and leverage too, because we negotiate from a position of strength. If we developing these products, if we doing the research, if we be able to benefit first from the research that we share. So when that's a space that I really, really would like to develop more. A part of what we're doing here also is developing an science agricultural lab. So I'm working with a couple of students in agronomy and plant biology, a couple of recent college graduates from a master's program. So we consulting with them, let them lead the way, but duplicate a laboratory here on the farm as part of our farm school training academy that we're working on establishing here on the farm too. Oh, these are just a couple other plants in the same vein as the palm olive and Coca-Cola. That's native African plants that's making medicine for the pharmaceutical companies. And these are spaces that we should be in also too, by being in touch with, let's say, more than just growing the plants, but the science of agriculture too, and expanding in the research space. West African violet here. This is used to make medicine. 2 trademark medicines are made from an African plant. The Kana plant, Zembrin, they're two for relaxation and stress. And the wormwood has been tested as a remedy against the COVID virus. Also true. So these are all plants. So this particular wormwood is a native African wormwood, and we actually have some of that here too. That particular cultivar. He who does not cultivate his fields will die of hunger. Okay.
That's pretty direct.
That's to the point. That's something I believe in fully. We can't free our way out of this problem. Like, learning to grow, to at least knowing the science of growing and things too, right? It is many fields to cultivate, many spaces to cultivate, literally, agriculturally, and science behind agriculture and manufacturing and product making. We experiment with making as many different products that we can make of or think of or create out of one plant, right? But cultivating your fields is the only way that we can get the justice that we seek. We're operating from a place of strength, right? So if we have things and we know our power and we know what we possess, we can have more stronger, make more headway, to demand justice. We can demand justice, but we have to do it from a position of strength. We can't do it from a position of our oppressor not going to respect us or have an incentive to give us the justice that we seek unless we're coming at them from a position of strength. Okay. And that strength comes from community. Okay. And the symbol here is a nativity symbol that represents, it says everyone eats. That's the type of community that I personally grew up in. And those are some things that, in this work, I think the focus should be on, because through that experience and growing up in a community that's still a community 50 years later, even though none of us lives on the block anymore, we're still a community 50 years later.
Civic.
Excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry to ask a question. Okay. All right. So along with this justice that we seek, is justice that we deserve, justice that we're due, I believe building a community too is as mustard putting our strengths together, right? So it's key that we believe here. That's what we inspired to build here with the buildings that we have, with the infrastructure that we've built, this model that we can duplicate across the country, and how to build a neighborhood, build a community. There's challenges through gentrification, being priced out of the market, but there are alternative ways to get it done. We face the same challenges here in North Carolina as many people facing around the world and around the country. Now, areas being redeveloped, people being displaced, prices, affordable living is nearly impossible to earn a living wage, especially for someone in entry-level position or starting out. So, but with the support of community, it can really add strength to our ask, add strength to our demands. not acts or demands too. But if we're coming from a strong community base, if we have a community base that's strong, no one's ever has to be hungry. So that's one of the things that we do believe in and stress, and we don't accept some of the language around this called politics of food at the time. And it may be suitable for some other venues, but not. We try not to put ourselves in that category ever. Okay, that's what I got slide wise. Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much. It's a lot of information. I think it's a lot of deep, philosophy as well as like really in the dirt specifics about plants. So I love the spread of different things that you're doing and how they're related and really making it happen and for people to come and see and experience. So it's pretty cool. I definitely want to come visit and learn more.
All right. Well, you're always going to be welcome. We look forward to your visit. Also, to our good friend Mariko did come by. Yeah, she came spend a few days out here.
And James as well, I think, has come to visit you, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, he did.
He's going, I think, to Africa, so he can maybe bring you back some more seeds and stuff to experiment with things.
Hey, I'm always campaigning for seeds all the time.
Yeah. And it's interesting what you said about just this citizen scientist and experimental work. We work with this one moringa farmer down in San Diego, Tony, who Mariko also introduced me to.
Yes.
And he is in the desert. I mean, it's hot, it's up to 125 sometimes. And he's been growing moringa there, but then uses the shade of some of the moringa trees to then grow other vegetables in that shade. So he's created these like microclimate zones that.
Yes.
So he's growing mangoes and bananas. And so, these tropical plants wouldn't grow there, but because they're next to a moringa canopy, they're able to grow. So he is very much in this experimental and when you see that, I mean, as a scientist, when I see people actively experimenting and adjusting and moving, it's science in action, and it's so incredible because there's nothing like that. And that's in the ivory tower, we do experiments in little petri dishes. We write up a paper and then we say, we hope this works for you out in the real world. But when you don't actually test in those spaces, it's really hard. And even with my project with moringa, people will say, will it grow in Berkeley? Well, it's like Berkeley itself has little microclimates. Yeah. And so I always say, just start and try, but it's going to be, it may behave differently in this area. So I think a lot of that is really important. And just that process of doing that is ancient as well, right? This idea of humans and trial and error is also a very ancestral thing. So it's really cool. I think I do have a couple other questions.
I think someone from the chat, someone says, how do we learn more? Are there any events coming up? So Mr. Singleton, do you have any events coming up this year? Or do you do any other regular talks in the community? It looks like Tiffany would like to drop in. She's in North Carolina. So, Tiffany, did you want to come off your mic and ask another question?
Hey there. I am actually getting ready. I have an interview at 12, but no, I was just interested in learning more and possibly attending events. And eventually I'd like to start farming myself, but just looking for resources as to where to start and information, things of that nature.
Okay, well, thanks for reaching out, Miss Tiffany, and glad to know you're on our time zone. So yeah, you can take I have my email information at the bottom slide, which I'll go to. All right. All right. And I was told this week my website's not working properly, but in the meantime, you can use my email there. Send us an email with the contact information. I can keep you posted on what events we have coming up. We have a lot planned for this season. Also, too, we start educational program on dealing with different techniques of growing rice using the SR Strategic Rice Initiative. As to Ms. Waterman's statement about water use in rice, these are techniques that we use to use less water and inputs and increase yields. So we did a trial last year, so we expanded on this year. So we started with 1 section, moved to 5 sections, and now we're going to do 5 acres through this trial. Cool. Right, and utilizing these different techniques, you can increase the yield production. But as event-wise go, we do have lots of things happening this upcoming season. We're doing an indigo festival. We have our annual Taste of Africa dinner. Also, too, we have it's a lot. A lot of things going on. We instituted quite a lot of therapeutic programs and worked on a couple of therapeutic agencies this year on using horticulture as therapy and too as therapy and for healing. Dealing with groups coming from challenging situation, women's group, dealing with coming out of domestic violence, sexual violence, different groups like that we'll be working with this year too. And it's a place of healing and like that too. So when we work to establish it as a place of peace and a place of healing and being in touch with the soil and getting grounded is like the #1 prescription for a lot of problems that we face.
Oh, so, well, thank you so much. That's really exciting. So I'll be in touch to get the information on when these events are. And also, I sometimes host small retreats for a group of women. So I'd definitely love to be in touch with you to see if that's something that maybe we can partner on, bringing these ladies maybe to the farm, something of that nature. But I have to run. Thank you so much. The information was really, really good.
Well, please reach out to us because we have a location that we do host retreats at, a serious healing retreat, yoga retreat, sound meditation healing, and we're at our other location. So we do offer all those.
That's perfect. Yeah, so thank you so much. I'll be in touch.
You have an Instagram as well, right?
Yes. So yes, it'll be Nebedaye Farms is the Instagram.
Yeah.
And I just noticed it's not only either. This is my first one.
But I mean, your Instagram's pretty active as well. So I think
that's my primary. Do most of my work from the Instagram.
Yeah, awesome. We can make sure to share that too and add that in your bio on our website. So and it benefits us so much to be able to tap into all of these different networks and share. And that's really the intent of our center, is to bring people together and work together. So that's awesome. I'm glad to know you're out there. Have you worked with Chef Kabui at all, or anyone at NC State?
I've worked with Chef Kabui also and he's been here before, and we plan he's been back and forth with the project he's working on in Kenya now too. Well, I've known him for years also too, but I work with a lot of chefs here too. We specialty grow for a lot of chefs here too. They come here to find unusual things that they know they're going to find anywhere else. Right. We're working with groups out of Maryland with indigo production too. They're doing, the demand for natural dyes now is immense, and that's another area that we can benefit initially in these initial stages. Like the moringa took off, natural dyes are taking off. The demand is such, then there's no farmers here growing that crop. So that's one of the things that we do here also too with the indigo. But so we definitely gonna have indigo festival coming up this summer to Taste of Africa, usually in the fall around October. But we'll be putting out the calendar once we have everything lined up. But we're going to have weekly events also too, starting up again where we have like an afternoon market with film screenings, markets, music, and guest speaker every weekend on different topics.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, we'll definitely have to, we'd like to add some of those events to our calendar coming up, and hopefully get some people out there. I also work with an ethnobotany faculty member at North Carolina State as well. So I've done some work with her, and I think I shared the link for her and her students. So we'll post the recording of this as well for other people to look back at. I just wanted to ask, a couple more things, like what challenges are you facing and what kind of tools are you using to overcome these? And also just how long have you been established as a farmer in that context, and kind of maybe some of the new challenges over the last couple of years?
Okay. Some of the biggest challenges that we've been facing is so the typical support in the research space, right? Being a citizen scientist, that doesn't come with much funding, too, right? So being able to have the time to, because farming wise, we've been abundantly blessed. I must say so, too, right? And a lot of challenges with comes for leveling up to the next level beyond just growing and distributing fresh vegetables, right? So I think my biggest challenge, it may not be the same for every individual agriculturalist, and I like that too, is the understanding the importance of the farmer as a scientist or a researcher in that space. It's very rarely mentioned here, too, and I don't elevating a farmer in that space is one of the biggest challenges that we have. But so that's what we teach here, and we encourage the people that come through here to work more in that space, because that's opening you up to unlimited possibilities.
I like that. It's like the scientific empowerment of kind of every individual is what you're doing a bit. It's great.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And are you working with, it seems like, so you're working with a lot of different organizations. Do you work with anyone from academia? I know we had talked on the phone briefly about grants, and you said, I believe you'd said you haven't relied too heavily on grants for your work. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Oh, okay. I've worked with I was supposed to be a part of a symposium actually with UNC Charlotte Botanical Gardens here, too. And pretty much, and early on when we first started this work, I've been working with Dr. Free at A&T, too. But like then and now, most of all our work is actually self-funded, too. Not that I just haven't made that the universities, a lot of university students come to the farm, too, from Queens College, UNC Charlotte, A&T. A lot of the students would come here as part of their research work or
That's
work. So we work with them on that level. Work with them around the Moringa, and I work with the culinary schools here, Johnson and Wales. We bring students out also too to participate, help on it, farm, have volunteer days, and come and learn about what we're doing here. Too, but we've been able to work with a lot of companies now too that's requesting products from us. Now we're moving into a space, and this is one of the other challenges is to the next steps from what we create, and I'm navigating that space now because we have corporations coming to us, right?
Yeah.
So based on something we created here on the farm, but I wear a lot of hats, but I can't wear all at the same time. That's why I trained in the next group coming up to be able to delegate a lot of that space and have the time to manage the creativity and manage the narrative around our creations. right? That too. So, but we have
yeah, and I think, you know, being intentional as you increase in scales of economy, right? I mean, it's not every new buyer you want to take on, and you have to have that time and space to think about it strategically, right? You know, so
yes, most definitely. And one great company is called out of New Jersey called Folk Beauty. Like the company, they do soul food for the skin. So they use a lot of farm-based products, agricultural products, in their and in their cosmetics. So they like say for us, they've been getting distilled plant spirits from us too. We've been doing distillation, making hydrosols too. So we do a lot in that space also too, and even from things that most people wouldn't consider as a cosmetic ingredient as okra.
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, okra is number one for her. Collard greens powders, different things like that. That's another way too, by learning and being in touch with agribusiness. Also, too. That's why we stress that also. There's a lot of niche opportunities for having the time to research them and develop products for them. What doesn't sell at the farmer's market could be turned into collard greens powder for the cosmetic company.
Yeah, exactly. That's great.
Yeah, so we're trying to value add everything and waste as little as possible.
Yeah, no, that's the best way. Circular economies. So, you know, just after kind of getting to know, having this discussion with us and knowing James and a little bit about what we do and some of the interviews, like we have interviewed Chef Kabui, is there, you know, what could a center like ours do, or what do you, and how could you envision us helping you more, or people like you, by having this platform, and yeah, how can we help you?
Well, the biggest help we need now is we move into a space where access to funding and in the research space too, so we can work to develop what we create here, right? It's very challenging day to day, you know, having to grow the food, first research the food, experiment with the food, turn it into a product, then turn it into 10 products. That takes a lot out of a farmer's day. Okay, but in that space, help with elevating to the next level, moving more into agribusiness and supporting research.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And my last question, if anyone else has anything, is do you have any resources that you'd like to share with us? Are there any books or podcasts or videos that you, either from a philosophical or practical standpoint, relevant to you and food justice?
Okay.
Or you can always get back to us on that one too.
I actually got a couple of them here.
Great.
Right. I think just to get develop the mindset around this area of farming. Two, there's a book called The Lost Crops of Africa.
Okay.
Right. That has a lot of this information from, and I use it religiously. And I've grown most of the vegetable and grains that's mentioned in there also too, and do well with them. Fruits are challenging because they're mostly fruit trees and things that won't survive in our climate. But a lot of the vegetables are annuals, just like it is in West Africa too. So I lost my thought, Mr. Carey. What's the question?
Okay, books and resources.
Oh, books and resources. Okay, The Lost Crops of Africa, one I would recommend. To Farming While Black is an excellent one.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's The Origins of Science, right? So The Origins of Science is a great book too for the citizen sciences, because you learn about science being developed as far back as from the hunter-gatherers, right? And went into their daily work and their daily and their survival. But those are three I highly would recommend.
Thank you.
And also when it comes to working in this economic space, there's lots of works out by Dr. Claude Anderson, too, who did Black Label, White Wealth, and also Powernomics, and like the two economic model for Black Americans here now.
Great. Thank you so much. You are a resource in yourself of resources. That's yeah, well, thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Hey Bernard, this is James. Very good presentation and Happy New Year to you. Very, very elegant as usual. I'm glad that you were able to come on and share some of your pathways and some of your discoveries, even since I've been down to visit. So yeah, really proud of all of the work that you're doing and the contributions you make to the community, because you know, this as a cultural preservationist, citizen scientist, those are words that needs to be elevated, particularly around the urban farming community. And so I see in 2023, I think this is going to take off, and your influences will certainly impact a lot of the future farmers as they put a little skin in the game. There's a lot of things that you do and know and have preserved, and we didn't even talk about some of the byproducts that you make. You know, like moringa pancake mix.
Nice.
Like olive jellies. You know, all of these things that you do. That is just really central, culturally specific in the Carolinas, because you don't really find it anywhere else. So hats off to you for that.
All right, thank you, Tune. Thank you for joining us today, James.
And James, thank you always for bringing us together and connecting and making, basically you've, I think, made the selection of our speakers for the last like five rounds. So I appreciate all of that as well. And yeah, over the holidays, just the logistics of sharing phone numbers and, you know, putting together slide presentations. So thank you all so much. And we'll continue the conversation.
All right, but thanks for having us today, and we appreciate the opportunity to share with you guys.